Alright, thank you guys for coming and showing up. My name is Chris Johnson and I will be talking about nonverbal communication. The John Maxwell Company has its blog that John himself writes on. In that blog he wrote, "People watch a reality show on television where two equally talented people sing the same song. One of them gives the audience goosebumps, while the other leaves the audience cold. Why is that? Two professors at a university teach the same class at the same time using the same prescribed syllabus and required textbook. Students stand in line at registration to get in the first teacher's class, while the other class starts below capacity and dwindles down to just a few students. Why is that? Shouldn't the words of the song evoke the same response in both singers? Shouldn't the same course be equally appealing to students?" Intuitively, you probably know that the answer is no. Why? Because we tend to respond to, in other words, connect with, others based on more than the words that come out of their mouth. What John is trying to say here is that we connect people by more than just the words that come out of their mouth, but it comes from the way that they say them. Some of these nonverbal techniques are voice inflection, tone, body language, and visual aids. And without these nonverbal communication tools, the speech is not nearly as effective as it could be. First thing I want to talk about is voice inflection and tone. What voice inflection and tone is the way that you raise and lower the pitch of your voice and the way that you say things. If I were to go through the entire speech and go through a very monotone voice and not really inflectuate my voice, it'd be very uninteresting. But if I were to build on a point, build on a point, build on a point, keep raising my voice, get to a point where I come to the climax, and then I start going down to the conclusion of the speech, that would make my speech much more interesting, and that could make your speech much more interesting. Okay, so that's what voice inflection means. In an article called "Truth, Telling Truth and Being Truthful," Harmon mentions, but through those utterances, whether knowingly or not, they also evoke meaning in hearers through tone, effect, inflection, and gesture. Voice inflections basically express our meaning in the words that we're trying to say. Tone also expresses the attitude our attitude towards the topic that we're trying to say. If I were to raise my voice and I would say, "Hey Diana, you need to do this," like that would make me sound a little bit more excited or a little more forceful, I guess, or a little more angry. If I were to say, "Diana, I can't believe you did that," just raising my voice in that way, it just makes me, sorry about that, it just makes my voice sound a little more angry. See, she was even terrified by the angry voice. But that's what tone means, and that's how you can use tone in your speeches to give off a different kind of attitude and what it is that you're talking about. Our body language can also have the same differences and meaning as our voice inflection. If I were to stand here before you, my hands in my pockets, and start talking about this topic, I wouldn't look very interested, and I wouldn't expect my audience to be interested as well. But if I were to walk around and use a little bit, even just a little bit of body language, I would look a little more interested in my topic, and the audience would reciprocate that same energy and that same interest. Especially if I would look super energetic. If I got really into my topic and I were saying, "Oh man, we got to do this, Diana, whoa, you got to be in on this," my energy level would be raised, and so would my audience. My audience would be into it. They would be like, "Oh man, I love learning about this topic because he's energetic, so I'm energetic." Okay. So body language also makes your speech more dynamic and interesting. It's really boring just to see someone stand here, their hands to their sides. It's a lot more interesting. Even the subtle movements of hand movements and walking back and forth, it's a lot more interesting than seeing someone just stand in one place with their hands by their sides. So that's why body language also is very important in speeches. If a speech is longer than a few minutes, though, it is best to have other things to capture their attention, like visual aids. Pictures are really good visual aids. Diagrams are a really good visual aid. For people who are visual learners, which are people who learn better through visual aids, this is essential. If for really long speeches, it's actually really good to have multiple visual aids. Like during sermons, you'll see a lot of pastors that give that will have pictures throughout their sermon, and this is actually really cool because it actually, in the audience's mind, it actually sections off the speech in 3 different ways. So if, like, say I'm making like 3 points, and I have my first point, there's a picture of a person, and I'm like, this person, yada yada yada. And then I have a picture of a house, this house, yada yada yada. Then I have a picture of a dog, this dog, yada yada yada. Later on, the audience can recollect and say, hey, he had a picture of a person. What did he say about the person? This, this, and this. He had a picture of a house. What was he saying about the house? This, this, and this. So it actually sections off the speech. Instead of one long speech of just talking, it actually sections it off into pictures. So that's actually also really important. Nonverbal communication when making speeches is just as vital as the words that you say. The nonverbal techniques that we can use are, again, voice inflection and tone, body language, and visual aids. Although we should put a lot of thought into the words that we say in a speech, we should put even more thought into how we say them. Thank you.